welcome to Crime Divers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And welcome to today's episode.
Hello everybody, welcome to
episode 2 of season 9.
There we go.
At least some of us know where we are.
Yeah, I know, we don't usually say that though, so I don't know why I was trying to say it. Anyway, welcome back.
Yeah. So Jill, where in the world are we?
We are in the UK, we're actually in Scotland.
Ooh, bonny Scotland.
Yeah, not so bonny at the moment though, is it?
No, not really. You wouldn't think it was July.
Summer has forgotten about us this year.
Certainly has. Certainly has. So it's a good day for recording a podcast.
Yeah.
So what is your title?
Lured to his death.
Okie dokie. Shall we dive in?
Let's dive in. Stephen Donaldson was from Arbroath, which is near Dundee. He was 27 at the time of his death, which was on the 6th of June 2018. He was an offshore oil worker, meaning that he earned quite good money. Mm-hmm. He had a passion for cars and motorbikes, and he bought numerous vehicles. And he also bought 3 flats in Arbroath and Aberdeen, which he rented out.
Well, he must have been made the money there, eh?
Well, exactly, 27 years old, and he's got numerous vehicles and flats that he rents out, plus his good wage.
He's doing alright there, eh?
Aye, so he's doing really well for himself.
Maybe our husbands should have been oil workers.
John actually did think about it at one point, but then did nothing about it.
Clearly, because he's not offering an oil rig, is he?
No, so we did have a conversation about it though.
Yeah, that would be good money. Well, sounds like good money anyway.
Yeah, it is. So he was from a close family. He got on really well with his mum and dad, and also his 2 sisters. He still lived at home with his parents because being an offshore worker, he was away a lot of the time. So for him, it didn't make sense for him to have his own house that would be barely lived in. Like, what's the point in paying a mortgage and whatever else for a house that he's never there?
Yeah, exactly. Well, at the end of the day, he's got these investment properties that they're paying off his mortgage for him, and then, he'll benefit later down the line.
Exactly. So for now, well, he just stayed at his parents' house when he wasn't working.
Makes sense.
So he was a happy guy. His friends said he was always laughing. They were always taking the mickey out of each other. He was really popular, had lots of friends, and no one ever had a bad word to say about him. Mm-hmm. On the 18th of June 2017, Stephen met a girl called Tasman Glass, who at the time would have been 18, at Fife's Knockhill racing track.
Oh, I've been there.
I know you have. Did you buy it? Did you buy an experience for Justin or something?
I can't remember if I bought it or it was through work. But anyway, yeah, I got an experience to drive some supercars around the track.
Yeah.
So, I just had to go and spectate, it wasn't exciting for me.
No, or me, because you sent me videos, but...
I know, but I was there as a supporting wife,
Yeah, and he enjoyed it, so I've never been, but...
I don't know if I were actually married at that point, but a supporting partner. And the cars were pretty cool, and he had a good time, so, that's all that matters.
So there you go, Laura's been there.
Yes.
So this Tasman, she loved motorbikes as well, and, so they had that in common, and they started going out with each other. So on the 6th of June 2018, after playing with his sister's kids in the garden, Stephen told his parents that he was going out to meet Tasman, and off he went. Mm-hmm. But the next day, one of Stephen's friends went to his parents' house and asked if they had seen Stephen, because no one had been able to get in contact with him since the night before. So his parents didn't know where he was. He was 27, he just came and went as he pleased, so it wasn't unusual for them not to know where he was, because...
Well, yes, because they're not his keeper, are they? He can do what he likes, I guess.
Yeah, but, so that wasn't unusual. So, they weren't too worried at first. Uh-huh. But as the day went on, his family did start to wonder, where he was and if he was okay. Mm-hmm. So... Stephen's sister Laurie, she got in contact with Tasman over Facebook Messenger, as she knew that he had been going to see her the night before. Uh-huh. Tasman told Laurie that her and Stephen had been arguing a lot lately, and he hadn't turned up to meet her the night before.
All right.
So unfortunately, what they didn't know was that at about 4 a.m. that morning, employees of the RSPB, which is the Royal Society for the Protection of Birds, found a burnt male body next to a burnt out car.
Oh, I guess I know where this is headed then.
Yeah, unfortunately. They were at a place called Kinnordy Nature Reserve, which is near a place called Kirriemuir. So this reserve is like really remote, it's off the beaten track, and like crimes of any type rarely happen in Kinnamuir and the surrounding areas. So this was major.
Major.
Yeah. I mean, they probably had things like, I don't know, maybe a kid stealing a sweetie from the shop.
Yeah, it's like that kind of like really small area, isn't it? Where probably not a lot of like bad crime happens. Like it's
not a lot really happens.
Exactly. It's probably they're just there just as, you know, for people to feel safe, and I'm assuming on a day-to-day basis maybe their dealings are probably minimal of like bad crime. It's probably just like, I don't know, catching someone speeding or minor thefts or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. So the police were called at about 5:30 a.m. DC Nicola Annan, who had been in the police force for 18 years, and DS Andy Patrick, who had been in the force for 26 years. They were from the major investigation team, so they arrived at the reserve. They both said that this was probably one of the most shocking scenes that they had seen in their careers. Mm-hmm. DC Annan said about the body, quote, "He had severe injuries to his face, neck, body and legs. They were like very serious cutting injuries," end quote. So, of course, the first thing they had to do was to find out who the victim was.
Yeah, of course.
Because the man and the car had been set on fire, finding physical evidence... finding physical identification was impossible. So they looked to see if he had a phone, and they did find one, but it was so damaged, so burnt that they couldn't even get it to turn on.
Right.
The car, it was completely destroyed. There was no registration plates on it, so they couldn't identify it from those. Mm-hmm. But luckily, though, they were able to find an engine number that related to a white BMW 1M, and it just so happens that this vehicle is actually quite rare. Mm-hmm.
So I've not heard of a 1M on a BMW.
Well, John has, because I asked him.
Oh, has he?
Yeah.
Oh, well, just...
Because I knew you wouldn't have.
No. Well, neither did you.
Yeah, but I've heard of a BMW 3 Series, which is what John's got.
Well, Justin's got a BMW i4 or something like that. So, I mean, I've heard of that too. And I used to have an X1. I've heard of like an X3 and an X5. And
well, the reason why you haven't heard of a BMW 1M is because it's pretty rare.
Well, yes.
So that'll be why.
Funny that.
So that made it easier. And they found out that the car was registered to Stephen Donaldson. Mm-hmm. So now they had to figure out if the body next to the car was actually Stephen, because, just because it was his car...
Didn't mean it was him.
Yeah, it didn't mean it was actually him who had died. Mm-hmm. So by the time they'd had sort of all this figured out, by then, Stephen's family had filed a missing persons report. Mm-hmm. They had described tattoos that he had on his legs, and these matched the tattoos on the body. Mm-hmm. So now that Stephen had been identified, a murder investigation was launched. Mm-hmm. So an autopsy was carried out, and it was reported that Stephen died after his spinal cord... I find it hard to say that word. Cord. It just sounds weird.
Cord.
Cord.
Now you're making me sound like I say it differently.
Cord. Yeah, cord.
Cord.
It's just going to sound worse the more you say it.
Yeah, I think it does.
But yeah, anyway, so unfortunately Stephen had died after his spinal cord was cut by repeated blows to the back of his head and neck with a weapon like an axe or a machete.
God, that sounds awful.
It sounds absolutely horrendous. Do you know a thing about me that I don't even think that you know, but I actually hate it when somebody touches my spine.
Yeah, aye. It gives you that icky feeling.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So that's not just me then.
No, I don't like it either, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, like, if John, touches my spine, I don't even like touching it myself. So, just the thought of that, it just seems, I don't know, just horrendous. Yeah. So he had also suffered a series of other stabbing and slicing wounds, and there were signs that he had tried to defend himself. And poor guy, that was horrendous.
I mean, that is just awful.
So at first the police thought this looked like a gangland, like drug related murder.
Yeah.
I think just because of the brutality of it, you know.
Well, you would think.
But once they started speaking to Stephen's friends and family to understand who he was and what his lifestyle was like, it was looking less and less likely. I mean, he had a good job, he had lots of friends, a lovely close family, he wasn't taking or dealing drugs, he was just living his best life, said he had a good job, he had good money, he was buying cars, he was buying flats, he was enjoying himself and looking like he was living a pretty clean life, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You know, he wasn't wrapped up in anything illegal or anything like
exactly.
that.
And I mean, to be fair, he was obviously away a lot as well with doing his job on the oil rigs, so I mean...
Yeah, so I don't think he would be very good at being involved in, like, drugs and things like that, because he wouldn't be there most of the time.
Exactly.
Because do you not do... Well, I don't know, do you not do, like... I don't know if it's the same for everybody, I'm sure you do, like, I don't know, maybe 4 weeks on or 6 weeks on and then 2 weeks off, and you know, that sort of
You're
thing.
away for a good few weeks at a time.
Yeah, I think that's why you get paid so much, because you are away a lot.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, he wouldn't be very good at being mixed up in that kind of thing, would he?
Exactly, I wouldn't thought so. Who would know him well enough, like, because if he has spent a lot of time away, I mean, he might have like old friends that he's had growing up and stuff like that, but he might not meet new people obviously that much because he's away.
I mean, he had lots of friends, but I think they probably were friends that he'd grown up with, and anyway, he wasn't involved with anything that he shouldn't be involved with.
Yeah, that we know of.
Yeah. So to the police, it just seemed bizarre that Stephen had been murdered, and especially the way that he'd been so brutally attacked. It just didn't make sense, because he was such a nice guy, as we've kind of already covered. Like, who would want to murder him?
Exactly.
So his friends told the police that his phone had been broken, so he'd taken it to the Apple shop to get fixed. So D.S. Patrick headed to the shop knowing that they would have CCTV. Stephen was seen with his friend in the shop handing his phone over to a member of staff, which meant there was a good chance that Apple had downloaded like his phone data, so they'd be able to look at it.
Yeah.
So once they got the information from his phone, they could track his movements of the 6th of June, who he'd been in contact with by phone. They could read his texts and messages on WhatsApp, Facebook, whatever, whatever other apps that he had. The member of staff from the Apple shop told him that Stephen had backed up his old mobile phone to another device, so they needed to find that other device. So I was kind of a bit confused by that. I was like, was the phone that they found in the car the new device, or
was it an old one?
I don't know, but that didn't really come anything. Anyway, they were, they got the data from his phone anyway. Yeah. The police were also able to recover a backup of his iPhone data on his laptop, so they could see from messages, just what his relationships with people were like, because, I mean, if you are having bad dealings with somebody, then sure, they would probably be phoning you and texting you.
You'd be able to sort of get an idea of maybe who they've been in contact with and what they've been up to.
And they could see that that he had a relationship with Tasman. So Tasman was 19. She was from Kirriemuir. She was a student in Glasgow, and she was also a singer and an actress. One of Stephen's friends, Bruce, he had known Tasman all of her life, and he said she was a nice girl, she was funny, friendly, just a normal 19-year-old living her life, But police obviously questioned her, and she told them that she had been swimming with 3 friends on the evening of the 6th of June. So there's Stephen Dickey, Callum Davidson, and Claire Ogston, and Claire was Callum's girlfriend. So after swimming, they had all gone back to Callum and Claire's house, because they lived together for a while. And then Tasman was going to meet her boyfriend, Stephen Donaldson, later on at a place called Peter Pan Park. Try saying that.
Peter Pan Park.
Imagine being drunk and try to say that 5 times.
Peter Pan Park, Peter Pan Park, Peter Pan Park.
So, so that's Peter Pan Park. It's in Kirriemuir, and it was actually roughly a 5-minute drive away from the nature reserve, so... So she said that when she was questioned, she went to the park at about 11 p.m, but when she got there, Stephen wasn't there. And when he never turned up, she went home. She didn't try to contact him that night. She just chatted to her mum for a bit, and then she went to bed, and then she texted him in the morning, but she didn't get a reply.
So that's just so random that, I would never go and meet somebody at 11 o'clock at night. That's so late.
I would.
Well... Yeah, well, I wouldn't. I just think that's crazy. Then not to even phone them to turn up. I'm like, hey, where are you?
Well, I mean, maybe she was pissed off with them because they'd been arguing.
Well, no, but if she actually made the effort to go meet him, then she obviously wanted to talk to him because she was willing to speak to him. So why would you not phone him? I think if she was pissed off with him, then she just wouldn't bother meeting him at all.
Well, I don't know.
I know, but I think
everybody's different.
I don't know, that's just not for me. Like 11 o'clock at night, I'd be in my bed. Thanks very much.
Well, I would, and I did when I was younger, be meeting boyfriends at that time of night or later in the park. So
I was in my bed at home and you were sneaking out?
Yeah.
And I didn't even know?
No.
How did you sneak out?
Through the door.
Oh, did mum and dad not get up and see, like?
No, they were in bed.
They must have been, like, deep sleepers then, because see, like, if I'm at home now, like, I wake up at the slightest, like, if I hear my daughter waking up or whatever. Like, this morning, because obviously I was working this morning at 6 o'clock, so I got up at 5, got myself dressed, went to walk downstairs, and all I heard was, Daddy! And I'm like, no, it's Mummy. And that was her shouting, and I was like, right. And then I thought, whatever, carried on downstairs. And then obviously I was a wee bit early, so I was just sitting there looking at my phone before I had to leave. And she must have asked Alexa something, because I heard Alexa saying something. I don't know if she asked what the time was, maybe. And then the next minute I just heard her go from her room into my room, so she must have jumped into bed with her dad. But see, so I mean, obviously I know I was waking up, but my point being was that I'm quite a light sleeper, so like I hear most things. Like, there's very rarely that I don't wake up to stuff, so...
Well, obviously our parents are different, because I'm a very light sleeper as well, and I hear the slightest thing. I wake up with the slightest thing.
And even the stairs were creaky as hell in our house, so how the hell did they not realise you were out that door?
I don't know. I was really quiet. I would have... And, like, a lot of the time I'd have my friends and boyfriend's friends, like, come and throw things... They'd come into the back garden and throw things at the window and wake me up.
Totally unaware of all this.
And then I would just walk down the stairs and then go through into the kitchen and the utility room and go out the back door.
Oh, you go out the back door?
Yeah, because that was quieter.
So did you take the back door key with you?
Yeah.
And then what time did you come home at?
Depends what I was doing.
I'm learning a whole new life about my sister that I didn't even know existed. Well, actually, that's a lie. I did know a bit, but I didn't realise probably how many times you probably did it. And the fact that I was unaware of it.
I'd do it most nights when I was young. Like, quite young.
You're bad.
I was a bad teenager. But yeah, we don't need to tell everybody about that. If you want to know any more, I'll tell you after we're recording. So police checked the router at our house, because her phone would connect to that when she came in. So they were able to check that she was telling the truth about when she got home, and she was telling the truth about when she got home. Mm-hmm. They also checked her Apple Watch, which had recorded her heartbeat, and there was no change in rhythm, so that suggested that she went to bed and fell asleep when she said that she did as well, so they checked all that data. So it seemed very unlikely that Tasman was responsible for Stephen's death. So officers questioned the 3 friends that Tasman had been with that night, and they all said, yep, they'd all been swimming. They went back to Callum and Claire's house, had a couple of beers. Tasman left to go and meet Stephen, and the other 3 went to bed about 12:30. So police took phones from about 15 to 20 people, family and friends of Stephen, so they could download data. There was no point in just obviously looking at people's phones, because anyone could delete messages or a call log. So you can imagine this took a bit of time. So when first looking at Stephen Dickey's phone, so that one of the friends that Tasman had been with, they could see that his phone hadn't been used for calls or messages for about 2 weeks before the murder. So they're like, really? That's a bit strange. Yeah. So they checked it properly, with the data. Yeah. And it didn't match up. So it showed that some data had been deleted from the handset.
See, it just shows you get your phone nowadays, you can delete stuff, but it doesn't mean it's gone forever.
Yeah, and the reason I'm telling you all this is because this is basically how the case was solved, was through phones and, the data that you can get from phones and watches and things like that. So that's why I'm kind of going into that, because that's basically how it was solved. So, and it's really interesting. Where was that? So on Apple iPhones, there's a setting that's called significant locations. And if you have that on, your movements will appear on your significant locations list. So Stephen Dickey's, luckily that was switched on. So the digital forensics team could trace his movements much easier. So as I said before, on the night of the murder, Tasman's friends had stated that they were at Callum and Claire's house after swimming, and they went to sleep about 12:30, but the significant locations on Stephen Dickie's phone registered that between 12:39 and 12:51am, the phone was at a location close to the health centre in Kirriemuir.
Not where he said it was.
No, so not at Callum and Claire's house asleep. Mm-mm. So with that information, an officer was tasked to recover the CCTV close to the health centre. Mm-hmm. So Kirriemuir is such a rural place that not much happens after 11pm, so the place is pretty much deserted.
I was going to say, it probably doesn't take much to spot on CCTV.
Yeah, it's not like there's crowds of people and you're having to spot somebody in the crowds, so it's really easy to spot somebody. Uh-huh. So the footage showed two figures that were crossing the road next to the health centre at 12:49am. So with that matching up to the significant location on Stephen Dickie's phone, the police, couldn't say that properly, they were pretty confident that the two figures were Stephen and Callum Davison. So, I don't know why I've just said Stephen and Callum Davison as if they were both called Davison there, Stephen Dickie and Callum Davison.
Yes, aye.
So D.S. Patrick started digging into the background to see what kind of people they were.
Yeah.
And they found that they were quite violent men. Callum had a previous conviction for assault and that caused serious... Take a deep breath, start again. Yeah. Callum had a previous conviction for assault that caused severe injury. And Stephen had a record of being violent and threatening lots of different people. They previously both of them had been... They had previously been charged with animal abuse and threatening various different people with weapons, at different times. So they
sound like a lovely couple of guys.
Yeah, exactly. So DC Annan went to interview Tasman again because she was the link between Stephen Donaldson and Stephen Dickie and Callum Davison.
Because they didn't know each other.
No, they didn't know each other. So what is the connection?
What's the connection? Yeah.
So DC Annan went to the cafe where Tasman worked, and DC Annan thought her behaviour was quite bizarre. For one, your boyfriend has just been murdered and you're at work. For one, that's...
I mean, I know people deal with stuff.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, I would have expected her to maybe have a few days off and be quite upset and in shock, and especially such a brutal murder.
Yeah, I think, as you said, people are different. They deal with things differently. Maybe some people are take my mind off it. But yeah, she found that weird. But when the DC Annan was talking to Tasman, she was just continuing making up sandwiches, doing her job, just chatting normally, not as if your boyfriend's just been brutally murdered.
Yeah.
And she, as I said, she just found that strange. There didn't seem to be any upset or...
no emotion.
Yeah. So Tasman did say that she had to tell the officer something, though, and she told her that she was in a sexual relationship with Stephen Dickie.
I thought she was with...
Stephen Donaldson. Yeah, so as far as the police were aware, Stephen Donaldson believed that Tasman was his girlfriend because he'd said he was going to meet his girlfriend. I'm not quite sure. But Tasman was now telling them that actually, no, she was his ex-girlfriend, and she said that they split up in April, which was 2 months before his murder, and she was now with Stephen Dickie.
Right. Which is now starting to make a wee bit of sense.
So the police now focused on the fact that maybe the motive for Stephen's murder was this new relationship between Dickie and Tasman. And then Claire Ogston, Callum's girlfriend, who had been with him swimming on the night of the murder, she came forward and she said she had more information. She had never told them at first, but obviously had been I have to do the right thing, so... She told police that on the night of the murder, Tasman had become upset because she'd had a number of phone calls from Stephen Donaldson. He'd kept phoning her, and she was getting pissed off, annoyed, upset. And when Tasman left the house, Stephen Dickie and Callum went with her. So she never left alone, and they had beers and went to bed. They went with her. And Stephen and Callum didn't come back to the house until the early hours of the morning.
So where were they?
Well, I'll tell you right now, because they told Claire that they had attacked Stephen Donaldson.
Oh, okay.
And they also told her that at the start of the assault, Tasman was there.
Okay.
So she just left.
Wow, and went home to her bed and slept soundly.
Yeah. So Tasman Glass, Stephen Dickey and Callum Davison were all arrested for the murder of Stephen Donaldson on the 15th of June 2018. So of course they all denied and said, no comment when asked if they were responsible for Stephen's death. Unfortunately, just with Claire's statement, they couldn't charge the suspects because that just wasn't enough.
No.
So the police had to dig further into the devices that they had, like looking more into location data or just anything that could tie them to the scene of Stephen's murder. So Diane Campbell, who is a criminal intelligence analyst, looked at the health apps on their phones. So this records a variety of data, including like how many steps the owner has taken, the distance travelled, and the number of flights climbed. So when somebody looks at that, they don't really know what that data means, but an analyst could work out, if you're properly analysing it properly, they could work out if the data corresponded with a suspect being at the crime scene.
Right.
So when Diane looked at Stephen Dickey's health app, she could see that there was activity during the night of the murder when he said that he was asleep. So it's like, no, you weren't asleep. At 11 p.m, for about 10 minutes, 11 flights were climbed, 416 metres were travelled, and 585 steps were taken. So he definitely wasn't in bed sleeping.
No.
So they had officers like walking, running and cycling those distances so they could see how the results could help them use the health app data and recreate the journeys travelled. And this was groundbreaking, as no one else has done this work in the UK. This has never been done before.
Right.
And it's pretty impressive that they can work up stuff just from the health
Well, that's what
data.
I mean. Like, not that, obviously we don't encourage anyone to do anything bad, but I mean, you're going to have to be taking your watches off and leave your phones at home, because nowadays, as you've just pointed out, that you could do something and say cover all your tracks, but not thinking that your phone and your watch is actually telling a story of what you've been up to.
I know, so just behave yourself.
Well, aye.
Or... No, I was going to say, or leave your phone and watch at home.
No, we're not encouraging that. We don't condone that. But I'm just saying, like, that's the thing, though. You're the things that you probably haven't even thought of that can explain where you've potentially been or what you've potentially done. Because, like I say, I would never think that my watch... I mean, I know it does stuff, but I would never actually think about my heart rate, for instance, so I could say, I was in my bed sleeping all night, but yet... Like I've been, doing something and my heart rate's obviously been active, whereas but then for me personally, I mean, obviously I don't wear my watch to bed. Like I always put my watch on charge. So,
well, yeah. I mean, I suppose a lot of people would, but...
But then I know there's a couple of friends that do wear their watches to bed, so I mean, it depends on the person you are. You might wear your watch, you might not wear your watch, but...
Yeah, I mean, maybe... Yeah, that's the thing, actually. How did they know that she was actually wearing her watch? Yeah. Unless her... mum or somebody said, she always wears her watch to go to sleep. I don't know.
Because if her heart rate was steady, it could... I don't know if it's still registered a heart rate.
Well, no, actually, no. If you haven't got it on, I'm assuming it doesn't register your heart rate. So if it's registering a heart rate, that means that you are wearing it. Yeah. So reconstructions revealed that it was a similar distance between the nature reserve and the home of Callum and Claire to what was shown on the health app. So this... Because of that provided various CCTV opportunities to be looked at based on areas and times that hadn't previously been covered based on the health app data. So just that data is giving them so much more information about where they can be looking on CCTV and stuff like that. You would never think of that, would you?
Not in a million years. And that's what I mean. Like, I just wonder whether, like, Apple, for instance, because it's the Apple Watch, is like, have they... Like, I don't know, have they collaborated in some way with authorities to, like, have these apps and stuff on their phone so that, it can help assist in things like that? Because, there must be some thought into that, I would have thought, of people thinking, well, this might be able to help us, solve certain things. Because, I mean, if you remember rightly, the Nicola Bulley case, because they were on about her Fitbit and stuff like that, about, try to track, sort of, see if they could work out her last movements or helps when it was, like, last active to maybe help maybe when time of death and stuff like that. So... They're obviously very, all these apps, like the phone stuff, they do all these things that I just wonder whether there was a thought process of that when it was getting designed in that, would that assist in potential crimes as such, or instances like this where somebody's...
Well, whether or not there was a thought behind it, it was a good idea that they done it. So.
Well, yeah, exactly, because that's what I'm thinking. Even if it wasn't initially, now going forward, that especially the police have realised how important like a watch or a phone can be, like that they probably maybe do use that as part of their process now, like completely. So
police had a team of 10 officers just reviewing CCTV 10 hours a day, so it was a big job. And eventually one officer spotted Callum Davison cycling through Kinnamuir on his bike at 2 a.m. on the night of the murder.
Oh, really? No.
So when asked if he was out on his bike in the early hours of the morning, he said, of course, no comment. When the police said, well, we have evidence of you not being in the house, like you said you were that night, so how do you explain that? No comment.
Mm-hmm.
So Callum's bike was examined by forensics and blood was found on the handlebars. And the blood was tested and it was Stephen Donaldson's.
Oh dear.
So they had evidence they needed to implicate Callum to Stephen's murder.
Yeah.
But what was the motive? Like, neither Callum or Stephen Dickey knew Stephen Donaldson. They had never met him before. And the attack was just so brutal from two men who Stephen didn't even know. It just didn't make sense.
Well, that's what I mean, because, like, if, a lot of the time when you hear about murders that are, like, really brutal like that, it tends to be that the person's known them, so they've got that emotion there, because they're, like, they're really frenzied about it.
They have, like, a grudge. They have a reason. Yeah, they're angry at this person.
Yeah. But if you don't know somebody, and obviously there's plenty of times when people have been killed by people they don't know, but it maybe isn't as brutal.
Yeah.
Is that because it's maybe, like, a spur of the moment, or, whatever, but that, to me, just sounds like somebody that's like, right, I'm getting you, and I'm doing it, and I'm doing it.
Yeah, you've done this to me, so I'm getting you back, kind of thing. And that's what the police, they couldn't understand that. They were like, why are these two men who have never met Stephen before, why are they hating him so much? Why are they being so brutal? So, obviously, again, they're looking at Tasman because she is the link. Yeah. She is the one who knows all of them. So she eventually decided to say no more than no comment, because that's all she'd been saying before was just no comment, no comment. And she told officers that Stephen Dickey was present when Stephen Donaldson phoned her, and that Dickey got jealous and angry because of that.
But even that's still crazy, though, isn't it? Really, I mean,
somebody else is phoning your girlfriend, but
well, exactly. I mean, you can be like a bit jealous and a bit annoyed, but you don't then go and murder someone like that. And like, if Stephen Donaldson thought that she was still his girlfriend, then of course she's going to be phoning her, because that's why. So if she's not explained that or made that clear to him or whatever, then you'd think that Stephen Dickey would be like, right, well, okay, why is he phoning you? Right, can you go and sort that out then, or something? Something like that. Why would you immediately think, I have got to go and murder this guy so brutally?
Exactly. Like, no. No. So, and she didn't seem too bothered that her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, had been murdered. And even the police thought that she just didn't seem to understand how serious this interview was. Like, you're being interviewed about murder.
Aye. Did she not just think she was going to get in trouble for anything or something?
I think so.
I think sometimes people maybe think that, is that if they're not the actual person that carries out the murder,
they think they're going to get away with it.
They're going to get away with it. But now, a lot of the time you see or hear people getting convicted that have been part of it, just the same as the person that's actually carried out the murder, because they've obviously either helped cover it up or they've helped do something else, or they were just involved and they were there. So you be a lesson. Like, even if you weren't the person doing the bad thing, you can still get in trouble for that.
Oh, exactly. No matter how little you were involved, you can still get in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that was what her thinking was, because she was just, kind of like shrugging her shoulders, like sitting with her arms crossed, like a typical teenager.
Yeah.
When you're getting them around or whatever.
The attitude.
Yeah, that attitude.
Whatever.
I that's one thing that with my kids, one of them in particular, she had attitude, still does. But most of the time, it was the attitude that would get me more angry than actually what she had done.
Yeah, to be fair, this is what happens with me and my daughter. Like, I mean, she's only 9 for God's sake.
She's not even a teenager.
Exactly, but she has got a lot of attitude, and I think it comes from watching things like YouTube and stuff like that. But it is more the attitude that annoys me necessarily than what is actually I'm annoyed at her originally, because it's just the way she answers me back, or she rolls the eyes.
Oh, the rolling of the eyes.
Yeah.
Oh,
and obviously she does do the shrugging of
Yeah.
the shoulders, and I'm just like, that just infuriates me.
That's
and gets me more
exactly
angry.
what I was thinking. I'm the same with your daughter as well. You know, I'll maybe tell her off for something, or maybe not even tell her off, just kind of say something to her, and the attitude that I get back, that makes me mad.
Yeah.
I might not be mad before, but
And
once she gets me the attitude, I'm mad.
That's what I say to her sometimes. I'm like, you know, not obviously like saying it's her fault, but what I mean to her is like, you know, if you just responded like in an acceptance, like maybe I'm telling you off and you just accept it, or you know, you just, if it's something that you should apologise for, but move on. But it's the fact that you just, that attitude, and then I get more angry with it.
Yeah.
And it's like, because I just want you to listen. I just want you to, you know, just accept it sometimes. Because I think just accept the telling off. Like she won't. It's like she doesn't accept the telling off sometimes. And
well, that is a teenager, so I'm just thinking, if your daughter's only 9, what's she going to be like?
Oh no, I dread it, honestly.
When she is a teenager, because I remember those teenage years and they're not
I
great.
honestly dread it. I really, really do.
We'll be fine. We'll get through it together.
Oh, well, I'll just be like, here, you have her.
You've got support.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get through it together. So, while Tasman was being interviewed, her phone was being analysed, and they could see that there were a number of calls and text messages that Tasman had made to Stephen Donaldson and to Stephen Dickey, but when they looked at her device, like, you know, all those texts and calls had been deleted. So, of course, that's a red flag to the police.
100%. Yeah.
When they see that certain messages have been deleted. So Tasman was asked about her phone, and she told officers that her phone hadn't been working properly and it wasn't storing her call data, which, of course, bullshit.
Yeah, okay then.
You deleted it. Come on.
Exactly.
So when the officer told her that they had retrieved all the texts and the call data she deleted, she looked confused. She was like, oh, okay.
But to be fair, I mean, I think until, obviously, I mean, I know this is 2018, but I think when I initially had, like, smartphones and that, I mean, it was for a long time, I didn't realise that things could be retrieved once they'd been deleted, because you just think once you delete something, it's
delete
gone,
means
isn't it?
delete.
Exactly. So, I mean, you know, maybe she wasn't aware of the fact that you could actually retrieve deleted stuff, so that's like...
Well, none of the three of them were. They thought they were being clever by deleting some of the data, but none of them actually, obviously,
Yeah.
didn't know that it could be retrieved by analysts. So her phone told police that Stephen Donaldson had bought her a car a few months earlier, and she had crashed it and she'd written it off.
Right.
So she got an insurance payout, but she didn't give Stephen all the money back, and she owed him £1,000.
Right.
So she had told Callum that she couldn't give Stephen the money because her bank account had been frozen, and Stephen had been asking her for it for a while, which is fair enough. Like, I want my money back.
Yeah.
You know, £1,000, a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So when she arranged to meet Stephen that night, she had promised to give him the money then. He had wanted to go to her house to get the money, but she was adamant that the park had to be the location, and of course we now know why. She lured him to his death.
That's like a red flag to me there. Jesus, like, oh my God, you're due me money, but no, we have to meet at 11 o'clock at night at a park. That just screams like...
It
dodginess.
does, but I just think from his perspective, he's only going to meet his 19-year-old girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, whatever the case was. What's going to happen?
Yeah,
You're not going to expect to be murdered.
No.
You know...
I know, I get, yeah, I mean,
I get what you're saying. It is like, that's quite... Why can he not just go to the house?
Exactly, or
and
why
get
can
the
they not
money
meet at like a normal time of day?
Yeah,
or, you know, why
I
is
get
it
that.
11 o'clock at night? It just sounds so...
It does sound
And then
dodgy.
obviously she knew fine well she wasn't giving him that £1,000 back either, so...
Yeah. Well, she lures...
That's premeditated.
Yeah. But we don't know what their relationship was like. Maybe that was just normal for them. Maybe they did a lot of things late at night. Maybe...
Yeah.
It could have been quite normal, but to some people it could be a red flag. To other people it might not seem... I don't know, but that's what happened.
I just think if I was ever due anybody money and they wanted to meet me at 11 o'clock at night at the park, I'd be like, it's alright, I'll just wait till like the next game day. Or
Yeah, I know.
whatever.
I know.
I wouldn't go and do it, but you know,
Everybody's different.
as you said, yes, you don't know the actual circumstances of their relationship.
If you know, when hearing about Tasman as well, you know, she was a nice girl, she was happy, she was funny, he's not going to be, she's not done anything in the past to make him think anything of it, really, you know, like, well, it's just my 19-year-old girlfriend, I'm just going to, whether or not it seemed weird to him, I don't know, But even if it does seem a bit weird, he still wouldn't have been expecting anything like what actually happened, would he?
No, 100% not.
So, throughout her police interview, the officers said that her demeanour just never changed. She was still calm, collected, and had no emotion whatsoever. So, because she was in a new relationship, and because she owed Stephen money, it's understandable that she wouldn't want him in her life. Mm-hmm. I get that. Like, I haven't got this money. Like, stop harassing me. I haven't got it. Just leave me alone. Mm-hmm. I'm finished with you now. I'm with somebody else. You understand that, but come on. You don't... We've all had that. Maybe not the money bit, but we've all had the, right, okay, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. Yeah, like, exactly. That's in the past. I moved on. Uh-huh. But murder's not the way to go about it.
Well, it never is it? I mean, you can...
No, of course not.
You can just cut someone out of your life if you want to be as brutal as that, but, you know, like...
And the way I think about it as well, like, obviously we don't know any of these people individually. We don't know them personally. We only know what we've researched. But from what people are saying about Stephen, he was a nice bloke. Nobody ever had a bad word to say about him. Surely, maybe I could be wrong, but could she not just have spoke to him and said, look, I haven't got the money right now. I'm having money problems. My bank account's been frozen. Yeah. Can we work something out?
Exactly, because at the end of the day, by the sounds of it, he wasn't short of a few quid, was he? So it wasn't like he was desperate. I mean, it's the principle of the matter that she was obviously due him the money. So I get that, obviously, yes, rightly so, she should be paying him back.
Of course, yeah.
As we know, you know, when working on the rigs and the cars and the flats, he's probably, you know, he's not relying on that money as such. Yeah. So if she had just approached him and said that, then surely he would have been like a decent guy and went, yeah, all right, we'll work something out where you maybe pay me back a little bit at a time. Or, you know, there could have been a better way to do that.
Well, of course, there was... Well,
there's always a better way, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, as I said, I mean, we can't claim to know anything about their lives. I mean, to me, it just seems weird that he thought that she was his girlfriend. You know, because to me, it would make sense if he knew that it was her ex-girlfriend, why he would be more persistent about getting the money back. Because surely, if you think this girl's your girlfriend, surely you would be a bit more lenient and you'd be like, oh, I'll get it back whenever. And he would know that she was having money problems. Yeah, exactly. But if that was his ex-girlfriend, then you can understand him going on at her.
I suppose it's hard to tell because, as I said, if he's working on these rigs for multiple weeks at a time, you know, they're obviously not, the relationship's not like going to be on the daily basis because they're obviously spending so much time apart. So has there been crossed wires where he still thinks they are together, but she's obviously met this other guy while he's been away, started something up. Maybe she's not quite told him that they're over or whatever. And, you know, you just don't, again, we just don't know, do we?
Yeah, exactly. We just don't know. So, so one officer described Tasman as a very devious, deceitful individual. He said, quote, if you listen to the community, she led a normal life, if you like, but that's far from how I would describe her. She set Stephen up for this to happen to him. There's no doubt in my mind that all three were responsible for the murder of Stephen. What we think happened that night is that Tasman set the wheels in motion. I think the phone was probably going constantly from Stephen Donaldson asking to meet Tasman, and I think in Tasman's head she'd moved on. She'd started a new relationship at this point with Stephen Dickey, and I think Stephen Dickey and Callum Davison decided to take matters into their own hands, end quote. I mean... Anyway, Tasman Glass, Callum Davison and Stephen Dickey. So, this is what happened on that night. So, Tasman was driving and they drove halfway up the hill to Peter Pan Park. Mm-hmm. And because obviously that's where Stephen was in his car waiting for Tasman. So, she, as I said, she was driving and she let Davison and Dickey out of the car part of the way up the hill.
Right.
And then she drove up to make sure that he was there and to make it look like she was arriving by herself. Mm. Callum and Stephen Dickey, they then ran up on foot the rest of the way. Mm. Now, that's where I think, is that where the flights came into it? Because they were running uphill, you know, on the health data.
Yeah, maybe.
Stephen had his door open, his car door open, and they just jumped into his car and attacked him. So when he was incapacitated, Tasman just got in her car and went home. So she went home, talked to her mum, went to bed, fell asleep, no problem, no changes to her heart rate, knowing that her on-off boyfriend was being attacked and murdered.
That's awful.
Whether or not, see, what I do wonder is, did she know, or did any of them know that they were going to murder him, or did it just end up?
Did it escalate?
Yeah.
Like, did she just think he might have been roughed up a bit or something?
Yeah,
or,
but even then,
I mean, still, that's still awful.
I just wouldn't do that to anybody.
Well, exactly. Like, she must surely, I don't know.
She knew he was getting attacked.
Yeah.
That's bad enough. How could you go home and go to your bed and go to sleep knowing that you're somebody who you have cared for or care for in the past or whatever is being attacked by two men? You know, it's not even a fair fight. You know, it's 2 against 1.
Exactly.
So awful. So Dickie and Davison then drove out to the nature reserve where they continued to attack Stephen. So at the Edinburgh High Court, Judge. There's no George. Judge Lord Pentland said, quote, "You carried out the attacks at 2 different locations. Initially, you overpowered Mr. Donaldson at the Peter Pan Play Park. You renewed your assaults on him with unrestrained ferocity. He tried to escape and to defend himself, but you cut him down without mercy, severing his spinal cord in 2 places with a deadly weapon. Once they had killed Stephen, they dragged his body underneath the car and set on fire to destroy any evidence that would link them to his murder." So both men tried to blame each other. Stephen and Dickie told the court that Callum was the muscle who sorted people out, but Callum said that Dickie struck Stephen 12 times with a baseball bat and he had a knife, because remember there was slicing. Judge Lord Pentland also said, quote, "He was a loved and admired young man. He had many years of life to look forward to. The wickedness of your crimes caused shock and outrage. No sentence that I can impose will repair the grievous hurt and loss that you have each caused by taking the life of this young man," end quote. So Stephen Dickie and Callum Davison were both convicted of murder, and they both got life sentences.
Mm-hmm. Good.
The judge told Tasman that, quote, "Without your influence, the fatal attack on Mr. Donaldson would not have occurred. You have demonstrated that you are manipulative and devious when it comes to advancing your own interests. In the whole circumstances, I am satisfied that your culpability is at the high end of the range for offences of culpable homicide. I take account of the fact that you were 19 years of age at the material time and of your lack of previous record. The sentence of the court in your case will be one of detention for 10 years. So she was charged for culpable homicide and sentenced to 10 years. Mm-hmm. Do you know what annoys me though? I take account of the fact that you were 19. Like, at 19 you know right from wrong.
Exactly.
I know your brain's not fully developed until you're like, I think it's like 20... It's like mid-20s.
But still.
But at 19, you know right from wrong. You know that telling these 2 blokes... I mean, did she tell them, go and attack him? Or did they just kind of come to that because...
Yeah.
She knew what she was doing no matter what. Anyway,
exactly.
So sometime after the murder, Tamsin found out that Tasman, found out that she was pregnant with Stephen Donaldson's child. So she had her baby's dad murdered.
So she had the baby.
She had the baby, yeah. But what I'm thinking is, so she said they split up 2 weeks before. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was assuming that she found out later, but did she know that she was pregnant at the time? Because if they'd been split up for 2 months, if she's 2 months pregnant, there's a good chance that she would... I mean, I know people sometimes don't find out, you know, obviously, with their cycles and whatnot.
Yeah.
But by 8 weeks, did she know she was pregnant?
I mean, there's a chance she could have, I guess, but maybe not.
But surely not. I mean, surely you wouldn't... Well, I don't know, if you have anybody murdered, then...
Well, I mean, like, at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, terrible about Stephen. I mean, I say he was well off. You know, he had a good job. He had, you know, he would have been able to provide for a baby, you know, very, very well. So, you know, why wouldn't you want that? Even if they didn't want to be together.
Yeah, they didn't have to be together.
Exactly, but, you know, our child would have, you know, had a good parent. I mean, hopefully for both sides, but certainly financially and security-wise, you know, that would have been good. So why would you not...
Well, I mean, she might not have known that she was pregnant. I mean, you know, I mean, quite often people don't find out till later on that they're pregnant. So, you know, she might not have known. But just whether she knew or not, how do you explain that to your child?
At some point, that child's going to want to know about their dad, then what are you going to tell them?
Well, she'll just lie because, I mean, even her mum has said that, no, she wouldn't have done that. She's not involved. So
she'll just make out like she's an innocent victim.
Yeah, she will. I mean, I'm assuming, you know, she's not going to say, "Oh, I had your dad murdered."
No.
So she will be like, "Well, you know, unfortunately, these two guys got jealous and they decided to do it. Well, you know, it wasn't anything to do with me. They did it off their own back." Blah blah blah. So yeah, she had a little boy just before going to prison.
Oh, okay.
So the latest thing that I've read about her is that she had a parole hearing in May this year, so 2024.
Right.
So that was a couple of months ago, even though she's only served 5 years. But I haven't been able to find out whether she was actually granted parole or not. So I don't know if she's in or out. I don't know. That was just the last thing that I read.
Right.
And then in November 2019, Stephen Dickey killed himself by hanging.
Oh, coward.
Yeah. An autopsy showed that he'd been using drugs whilst in prison. And he had just lost his job and his privileges the day before. So I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was to do with drugs. Whatever, but he'd been doing all right.
Mm-hmm.
He'd had responsibility. He'd had a job in prison, and then he's lost that job, lost whatever privileges he had, and he's hanged himself.
What an arse.
Well, yeah.
That's frustrating because then it just...
Yeah, because he's not doing the time that he should be doing.
Exactly, yes, he's obviously taking his own life, but, you know, he should be living his life in prison, you know.
Being punished.
Yeah.
I know. So yeah, that was horrendous, wasn't it?
That was awful.
Absolutely awful.
I mean, we have said this. Well, I know I've said this a million times before, but I just never understand. Like, there's always another way over somebody being murdered. I mean,
these were obviously violent people, and I'm you know, I was just thinking to myself, like, because they've done the animal cruelty. I'm not telling you what that is because nobody needs to. You don't need to go into details about that. It makes me sick thinking about things like that. And threatening people at various times and the assaults and things like that. They were obviously violent people, so it makes me wonder if that was inevitable. It was going to happen anyway. Maybe not to Stephen Donaldson, but at some point they were going to commit murder.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just it's awful. It's absolutely awful.
I know, to do that to somebody that you don't know who has never done anything to you.
Well, exactly. Like I say, they didn't even know the guy, and if it really was what to do with £1,000 as well, I mean, you know, that's just terrible. Over £1,000. Let's say there's the guy, you know, had a great job and, you know, good investments and stuff like that. So he wasn't short of a few quid, I'm sure. So
I'm sure it would have been a case of. Sorry, I just totally interrupted you there. I'm sure it would have been a case of, well, you either don't like. You either you're not getting the £1,000 back, or if you're still going to go on about it, we're going to kill you. I'm sure he would say, do you know what?
Yeah.
Fuck the £1,000.
Exactly.
My life is worth more than that. Like, you know.
It is. It's 100% worth more than that. I mean, it's priceless, the life.
Of
so
course.
At the end of the day, I mean, that's just such a ridiculous thing. Well, any reason's a ridiculous thing to be murdered over, really. But I just think, what a shame. Like, that poor, I say, had a whole life ahead of him. You know, was doing great for himself and everything, and then, well, as I said, that's such a brutal way to go. They
must be like really violent people to be able to do that to somebody that they don't know.
Exactly.
To do it to anybody, but
Aye.
As you said, like if you're angry with somebody for something, then you've got this against them, then you understand it more. But as I said, like, this guy's done nothing to them, so to have that brutalness, it's awful.
Yeah.
But anyway, thank you to everybody for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Yes, we'll do. Bye.